So it seems like a long time since I've been chatting to you. So how have you been getting on with the four agreements? Is there anything that you would like me to, is there any kind of questions you want to bring forward? Is there anything that you've been, yeah, how have you been? Or have you just managed to ignore it completely?
If you don't mind, I'm going to say I actually quite. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I actually quite enjoyed reading it, and I think it gave me such a quite a different understanding of things and life, and that's why when you said this course was coming up, and I just went definitely because I'd love just to hear an extended angle because
Hmm.
I felt I was going through it. I was like, oh God, what was that bit again? And I'd go back to it. So I just really enjoyed. Like, I don't have any questions. I just want more from it. Does that?
Yeah.
That's probably just me, though. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's a book that you can go back to. And in fact, I think it was people even on this, on the group had said that they, I think it was in this forum that you said it, that you'd come across it years ago and you thought, oh yeah, whatever. Or, and now it's a different book completely. And even in 5 years' time, reading it again, it'll be a different book again because you'll see different things. Every time I read, I go, oh, I don't remember that. It's the same physical book I read, so the words probably were in it the last time. I just didn't even see them. But which is what I love about it because it's so simple in its message. Maybe not just so easy to actually implement in life. Um, and yet really, really powerful, which is why it excites me so much.
Just on that, Laura, I was the one that mentioned I had read this years ago and thought it was too simplistic. Can't be that. Oh, that's rubbish. Um, I found myself a bit like Naomi going back over. Hang on a minute, hang on, and I reread and reread several sections. And it definitely is a book that I will keep picking up.
Mhm.
It's also in my mind now, and it's like, oh, you weren't been through with your word there, and I'm picking myself up and catching myself. Oh, you're being judgy there, and you're making assumptions. So for me, that's been really good, really, really good, and it definitely is a book I'll just keep going back to.
Yeah, yeah. I've had the signs on my wall since before I had kids. I typed them up and put them in frames and stuck them up on the wall. Um, and then my sister went. She's been listening to me on about for oh yeah. So she went to the Monarch, if you don't mind, excuse me, with her best friend, and our best friend said, "Oh my God, I've got this amazing book. We're going to sit and we're going to read it for the weekend. This is what we're going to do for the weekend." And out she pulls the Four Agreements, and Tony goes, "Ah, sweet divine Jesus, no, I'm not doing that." And then she looks at the book and goes, "They're the blinking things that Laura has up in her house. Has had them up in her house for the last." So it's funny how it's just embedded for me in everything that we do because I love it as a real simple, like you just say, it's a simple hook. How am I speaking with integrity? What's going on? Where? Yeah, yeah, it's cool, cool.
I have to say, Laura, I was saying last week, oh, that probably being cocky, oh, whenever you like um don't go there with the gossip and stuff, and then you usually kind of find those people don't come your way, and then you've got all these really kind of chilled out, cool people that don't push your buttons. And after 3 years, like what since COVID, being in an office on my own above the psych ward, having nobody except like Own playing in background on my phone, I've now been landed with a challenging office mate, which like a few people have said to me, "Oh my God, I can't believe you have to share an office with her now." And I was like, "Oh, there you go, universe sending me something more to kind of challenge me." So it's been interesting. Yeah, because yeah, it's just been really interesting to see the number of assumptions being like thrown at me and how I'm observing that, and um try not to judge, and it's like, no, I'm on. I'll be in a sec. But sorry, it's going to be in your recording to all those people you're going to send it out to. But yeah, very interesting. So this is my practice right in my face. I think it was a bit like, oh, you found it easy now, here you go. But sure, look, we'll see how it goes.
It's always the way, isn't it? When we're ready for the next level, it appears. So your next teacher has appeared for you. Like, thank you, universe, for offering me this amazing teacher where I can just elevate to the next level. And who knows what a gift for her as well. You know, it's or him. There was an assumption there. That yeah, to share a space. Who knows? Fantastic.
Thank you, Herbie, because I thought your language last week, what was your one-liner that you said outside the school? And I went, wow, that's deadly. I'm going to rob that. And I had a similar experience where I thought I was very cool in a meeting where I put a stop to this big negative outburst. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, that was easy. And then no, I had a week of having to sit in a car with somebody for 4 or 5 hours and I didn't know what to do. The only thing is, I talked to my husband about it afterwards and I said, I didn't go there. So awareness was half of it and I didn't go there, but I was wrecked getting out of that car because I didn't know how to stop it. So that's my question. What's the magic word?
What is the magic? Yeah. Yeah. Compassion. Compassion is the magic word.
Yeah.
Compassion for yourself and celebrating the awareness that you've noticed, because we have been for so long in that environment where we didn't even notice. We just got hooked into the gossip and hooked into the negativity or hooked into whatever the drama was. And we didn't even notice. We were just riding the wave. So joy and celebration of the awareness that, wow, this is all around me. This is all, I'm sure there's a song in that. And awareness of the impact that it has, you know, as we start, you know, the more embodied yoga and the more we kind of become conscious, wow, this actually feels not great in my body. And all of these cues give us awareness. For me, the next step is compassion. And it's compassion for ourselves because we may not know what to do yet. Compassion for the other, because if they knew any better, they would do differently, because it is also affecting their body. So, but they just don't know. They haven't got the information yet. And you giving them the information with your words may not be the most useful or effective way, because people, you know, it's not necessarily.
I found I was using compassionate language and I was trying to put and then when I walked away, I kind of felt, oh, I was just trying to fix her.
Yes.
No, I was just trying to fix her and impart this newfound shit I have. And well, it didn't land.
Yes.
And yeah, so.
Fantastic awareness. That is amazing, because, you know, probably nobody smokes anymore, but do you remember back in the day when people used to smoke and then you'd meet a newly recovered or a person who stopped smoking and they're like passionate about it. So that's us now. We are like really passionate and we want everybody to know and we want them to do it, you know. And it's the same like when you start teaching yoga, you're like stopping people in the street going, do you know you're hip? You could walk better, freer if you'd only just like stop and do yoga. So I want us to really enjoy this passion that we have, because it'll sparkle through our eyes. And when we approach people, when we think that we know something more than them, or that we have information that would help them, save them, or rescue them, straight up, they're not going to hear us, because that's what they're going to hear. They're going to hear our judgment, so they won't hear us. Whereas in actual fact, just seeing our sparkle, then they will come and ask you how you got it, if they're open to it. And that's when you tell them, well, let me tell you, I just read this great book, or let me tell you whatever. So for me, it's about us being worthy of imitation, being the light, so that then people ask, and open to, so that they can say it. And some people, the people who aren't ready or aren't resonating, then their teacher hasn't appeared yet, because your teacher appears when they're ready for them. And you can be that teacher for someone when they're ready. So you allowing that your light shine. And it literally, like, I don't think I told you the story about my husband, did I? And the coffee in the morning, the cups of tea in the morning. No. So when I started this work, actually with the it was the first one I think I did in this kind of work, oh, many years ago. So we were not married and we lived together, and we used to get up in the morning and, we get up and kind of rub by each other and go out. We were not very happy. It was where I first came across the mental alarm clock. So when I was always a morning person, but I got really happy then after waking up, woohoo, leaping out of bed. And I had made an agreement that for 6 weeks I was going to do a kind and loving act for my husband. In fact, I think I might have even he was my husband, but I think I might have even said that I was going to make him a cup of tea in the morning, that was what my kind and loving act was going to be. So I leap out of bed, happy out, and I'm all joyful, and I go to make him a cup of tea. Now, to say he's not a morning person would be putting it like mildly. So he might have mooched out of bed, into the bathroom, out of the bathroom, out the front door. That might be his, might have been what his role was. So happy me leaves that bed, makes him a cup of tea, brings a cup of tea up to the house, up to the bathroom. Oh, when I think about it anyway, brought the cup of tea into the ensuite and said, "Oh, hey, love, I made your cup of tea." And he looks at me and goes, no, sorry, the very first day I left it downstairs. And of course, he didn't even go into the kitchen. He just walked straight out the front door. The second day, I brought it up to him and brought it to him in the ensuite. And he's like, "Are you fucking nuts? Like, why would I want to drink tea in the ensuite? Like, seriously, like, what are you doing?" The third day, I brought it up and I left it on the windowsill in the bedroom. And I'm like, "I made you a cup of tea, love." He's like, "What is wrong with your one?" He wasn't very much receiving it with the joy I had hoped that he might have received this with. Anyway, 6 weeks. I had made an agreement to do this for 6 weeks, and I was looking to keep my word because I was practicing speaking with integrity and keeping my word. Now, that's a hard part. Like, this is where we don't even know we're making agreements with ourselves that we are not keeping, and therefore we are no longer believing our own word. And nobody else will believe us either, but we don't believe our own word because we don't follow through on agreements we make. So anyway, 6 weeks. So eventually it got to a point where we'd go to the kitchen. He'd come to the kitchen and he'd sat and had his cup of tea, and then he went. I'm not saying he was very happy, but after about 3 or 4 weeks, he came to me and he said, "What's going on? What is this thing that you did? Why are you like?" So he recognized the joy in me and asked me. So despite all of his resistance, despite him spending the first 2.5 weeks going, "You're a bleeding nutter, Laura, and would you get out of my face with your tea and that stupid course you did?" Within 3 weeks, then he's coming and asking me, "What was that course? Oh, I wonder, could I do it?" And sure enough, he went and did it. Didn't really help him with the mental alarm clock, but the rest worked, So I'm just sort of saying that when we are true to ourselves, people will ask us and they'll recognize it in us, rather than us going to rescue people or save people or fix people. And rescuing, saving, or fixing people is the best way to shut them off, because people are not broken and they don't want to be fixed. Yeah. The next thing, though, then after your compassion, is compassion for yourself and compassion for the other person, because they get to live in that body all the time. So they get to be miserable, they get to be cranky, they get to be bitchy, they get to be whatever the word that is coming to your mind is. They get to be like that all of the time. And then my little tagline is that they are my greatest gift, which Herbie has already sort of referred to. Thank you. And the other thing I would say is, thank you. Thank you for sacrificing yourself so that I can see what it's like. Thank you. I mean, because they get to live in this state. And when we have the vision, we can see, then we can be grateful that they are a reminder of how I don't want to be. So I don't have to get hooked into it. And it's not it's simply a choice. Somebody chooses to wear a red dress, somebody chooses to wear a pink dress. It's not a judgment because they're wearing a red dress and you're wearing a pink dress. So it's not a right or wrong. It's that both of these options are available. We can be miserable, we can be in drama, we can be in story, we can get into all that. That is absolutely a choice. And for some reason, we want to take the blue pill, that we're choosing a different path. We're just choosing a different color dress. One is not right, one is not wrong, one is not better, one is not worse. For me, the consequences of choosing this path, choosing the blue pill, is that I get to be happy. Like, why wouldn't I want to be happy? Like, I can be happy. And what's fantastic is I can be happy and sad at the same time. So it's not like this fake, oh, the Americans, have a nice day. Sorry, all Americans, have a nice day. It's not like a fake happiness. It's a fundamental joy. And then as well, there are other emotions, but they're not in control of me. I'm not giving away my power to those emotions. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, well, did to me. Thanks.
Cool. Brilliant. So what I wanted to do is my thought is I was going to do a whistle-stop tour of our lives. Now, as I was writing this, I was thinking I could spend an hour on any of these topics. So what I might do is see how we get going and how it plans out. And then it may run over then to next week. And then what I'll do is, so this was like a thing through our lives. If there's anything that you want more on or less on, more on, you can't get less on, the thing that you want more on, then I'm very happy to do follow-up bits and pieces. So you can kind of, again, let me know what is interesting to you. So up until now, what we did was the first session, we were looking at what the kind of the drama that we can kind of live in, and this model that the 4 agreements offer us as a way of not getting hooked into the suffering, into the drama, and basically, rather than living in hell on earth, living in heaven on earth. That's kind of the way I look at it. We talked a little bit about the 4 agreements and how they work. Last week, we were looking at how we write our book of law, like very, very, very early on. We get our constitution, we form that constitution. The constitution, that's my word, that's not in the 4 agreements. The constitution, which to me is like almost at a deeper level, where we're doing that really, really, when we're kind of pre-verbal. And then when we write our book of law, which is kind of what happens then, how we use that fundamental, how it is to be human, to interpret all the kind of things that happen to us. And we're still writing our book of law now, and it also means we can change our book of law. And we looked at how a lot of that really comes from our childhood. So that could be our family of origin, it could be our schooling, it could be the pregnancy, that whole very, very early stage. So what I wanted to do today is kind of very quickly have a look at how do we change, and I'm going to try and play with the tech for that. Then look at partners, look at kids, look at family of origin, work, friends, community. So the whole, like from ourselves, working the whole way out. Like I say, it's very ambitious to do in half an hour, but let's see how we get on. So the first thing is, this is where I'm going to play with the tech, and let's see if this will work for me. Let me change, share screen. This could be very exciting or very much a disaster. Let's just see, move that out of the way and press. Here. Aha. So the key thing is, like, the question that the real question, how do we learn? And the simple fact is we learn by falling down and getting up, falling down, getting up, falling down and getting up. And how often do you need to fall down? The very simple thing is you only need to fall down. Sorry, you only need to get up one more time, then you fall down. That's it. So let me just show you what that looks like, right? Let's see if this will work. How do I press? Where do I press play? I have 4 screens here in front of me. You wouldn't believe it, but anyway, let's try this. See if this works. And the baby is up and the baby is down, and she's back up and she's trying to get up on her legs. I'm saying this for the people who are watching this when they're driving the car, and she's on her bum. And now someone's helped her standing up. So you got a bit of a stand and you're on your face. Now you're holding onto the wall, getting some support for about 2 seconds. And now you're even walking for a second, and yeah, plop back down again. And on and on and on. And so on. Oops, that's not what I do. So really, it's like that. Like if you think of a baby and how many times, like what a baby does to learn to walk, and you've all been through that. You've all learned to walk. You're up and down, and we think it's hilarious, and the baby also thinks it's hilarious, which is kind of handy. But when we do that as adults, when we fall flat on our face and we have to get back up again, we have a bitch and moan about it. So that's just the way it is. We're going to fall on our faces. We're going to get up again. As we get stronger, more challenges are going to present in front of us. So like Herbie with her added on challenge. So she's ready for the next challenge, which has arrived for her. And then as we're kind of getting up and getting down again, what we need to do is use our language and to fundamentally not make assumptions. So imagine you're a blind man or woman. I don't mind whether you're a blind man or woman or not. And you see this. So if you're feeling and touching this picture, and this picture is of two heavy looking things, and the blind man is there saying it feels like a tree. It's a tree, it's growing as a tree. But then the next one, the person beside them, so the person at the desk beside you is looking at this. And and again, on this screen now, we're looking at a picture of something that's kind of curvy, and it's a little bit softer and a little bit more gentle, and it has movement in it. It's not like strong like a tree. This is soft and wiggly like a hose of some description. And then the person beside them, God love them, is feeling this, and I have no idea how to describe what this is. This is wrinkly and creasy, and so these three people who are all standing beside each other are all seeing different things, and have different impressions of what they're seeing. But if they're going to share what it is that they see, they're going to need to use language to do that. So while we're making assumptions, we only see a tiny bit of the picture. We only see the elephant's leg. And we're so consumed by the elephant's leg that that's what we think it is. And we make the assumption that it's a tree, for example. Or we're only feeling and seeing the hose, the trunk, and interpreting what we see. So it's not that we're not seeing it, we're just not seeing it all. So in order to talk, to get the picture of the person beside you, or so your partner, your kid, your loved one, your parent, we have to use language, really. That's fundamentally in order to get a bigger picture of what we're seeing. Here's another picture for us. So this picture, we have a ball with loads of different colors. So if you're above the ball or below the ball, you're going to see blue. So here, two people might even see the same thing, but they're not necessarily seeing the whole picture. So if you're talking to someone at the top and you're at the bottom, again, you have a shared dialogue, but it isn't necessarily the full picture, because the full picture might have loads and loads of colors. So again, this is where speaking with integrity, speaking about what you see, what you feel, what you own. And this is the trick to those difficult conversations when you're stuck in a car or you're stuck in an office, talking about yourself. Now that sounds very egocentric, but really it's, if you can move on to your experience and encourage them to talk about their experience, then it's less about the noise and the drama and the hysteria or whatever is going on. Because who knows, like we might get to a stage when we're looking at the world with not even straight shapes. So this image is it's of a ball again, but of so many beautiful colors. Woohoo, let me stop sharing. How do I do this? Oops, 1 second. Haha. So really what I'm saying...
That's amazing, Laura, thank you.
Did you like the elephant's butt? So really what I'm sort of saying is that this is where you're not making assumptions, where you're speaking with integrity comes into play, because the more we can get in communication with the human being, the actual human being that is beside us, the actual human being that we're sharing the car with, the more that we can remember that all human beings are basically insecure little teddy bears who have all these protection mechanisms made so that they can stop themselves feeling, stop themselves being seen, and all these other things that we also do. So when we can recognize it in ourselves, we can recognize it in the other, because they are fundamentally sacred mirrors. And so that what we see without is within. And then we're just choosing a different path, and we are so grateful for it. Yeah, so then to get on to kind of some of the more like real practical things, like your partner. So I'm working here on a, I mean, who says opposite sex? How in God's name is there an opposite sex? How is sex and gender even, anyway, we won't even go into that, but I'm going to speak of it in terms of men and women, but the reality is all men are the same and all women are the same. So your partner, take your typical Stereotypical. This is all stereotypical. If you want to be offended, please feel free. But I would suggest that you use it as a playground to, but let's just go with kind of our real stereotypical. Your stereotypical man, single, tunnel vision. Stereotypical woman sees everything. How do I know this? Well, because let's just take a very simple example. Have you ever gone shopping? It's all women that are here. So have you ever gone shopping with a man? Especially if it's a clothes shop. You walk at the front door, you take one look and you go, no, nothing in there for me. Thanks, move on. The bloke has to walk in, walk up, down one aisle, down the other aisle, back up the other. Meanwhile, you're cracking up outside, up the other, and go, no, there's nothing there. I told you. I could have told you that from the door. Or looking at projects. I have this great, oh my God, I'm working on this. What do we want in the garden? I have big picture garden. I don't want to put anything without knowing the full big picture. But my husband wants to know the next task. So when he asks me about the next task, I am learning. You'll see I'm not there yet. I am learning to keep my mouth shut and to filter my mouth and in my head work out big picture and only share next task. Because when I share big picture, he goes, yes, you're making the job so big. I go, no, I'm just talking about planting the tree. And he's going, but you made the job so big. And I'm going, no, I'm talking about you actually plant the tree. That's great. But I just want to know that when you plant the tree there, when we build the shed over there, and when we put the gazebo over here, and when we put the circle over here, that you're not getting the trees in the right place. He can't do that. He needs, so we need to learn to be in communication in a way that we can be heard. So it's not about not telling the truth, not speaking with integrity. There's also an aspect there where we're speaking in a way that is useful. So is it useful? Is it possible to be heard? And then there's this whole thing about compassion and understanding, because I have no idea. Well, all the scientists say it, so it must be true, and I can't remember the numbers now. I should have looked up the numbers before, but that women say, I don't know, let's say men say 10,000 words in a day and women say 20,000 words in a day. Forgive me, my numbers are probably not right. So the man and the woman go to work. The man and the woman use their 10,000 words in work. Great. They come home. The man has used his 10,000 words. He's done. Finished. He has no more words. He has no words for you. He is ready for his cup of tea, his book or his film or whatever. That's it. He's done. The woman has only warmed up. She's like about halfway there. She has a whole half of the language left to go. And she needs to talk. Talk. Now, if you understand this, then we don't need to be offended when they're like, and we can tell them what we need, because men are great with instructions. Please sit there. You can stick an earpod in and pretend to be listening to me. That's fine. And then I'll give you a nudge and the bits that I need you to listen to me for, or whatever. Work out your, figure it out. But know that it's just that we need different things. And then when we have all of that, then we are less likely to be out of communication and be more likely to be able to be in communication. And all that noise doesn't get in the way of us being fundamentally in communication. Yeah. There's a whole weekend stuff there, but yeah. Kids, right? We're whistle stopping onto kids. So kids are fantastic. Oh my God. We're coming to family of origin. They are a really good way of learning about yourself, but kids are a fantastic way of learning about yourself, because all your shit you've just put on them and now you get to see it back, only they've also adjusted it slightly because they're themselves as well as being, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like this wonderful sacred mirror. And so use it like that, be with kindness and compassion for yourself and for them. They are such a fantastic It's such a fantastic thing. And remember, if we're saying that they have picked us, then we're not responsible for screwing them up. Sorry, all the children listening, but we're not, because we can't be responsible for being screwed up and for screwing them up. We have somebody, if we're going to take responsibility for ourselves, then that's what we're going to do. For me, the key about children is stage. What stage? When you're pregnant, when they're a little like newborn and you're so precious about them. When they're toddlers and they're moving around, like all of this stage, our job is to be worthy of imitation. And the work that we do on ourselves will directly affect them. Every samskara, every wound that we clear for ourselves directly affects them instantaneously. Now, that does not mean that we should feel bad and guilty about all of the samskaras, all the wounds that we have, because we're just giving it to them. Because if you remember what I said, they have picked you. I know you're not there with me yet. For some of you, you're like, yeah, that's grand in theory, but I'm still going to feel guilty. That's grand. If you want to feel guilty, feel guilty. And remember to notice, oh, here I am feeling guilty again. Here is a law or a pattern or a habit that I have. My body likes feeling guilty. Is it useful or not useful? Where does it come from? What is the source of origin? Where in my constitution have I written that I should feel guilty for everything? I'm suggesting this a lot because as good old Irish Catholics, but it turns out it's not just Irish Catholics that feel guilty. I work with people from like different cultures and they also get to feel guilty. So I don't know, maybe it's just a whole, anyway. But even just being kind of conscious of that. Being worthy of imitation. At primary school age, in the Steiner school, we used to talk about there being 3 souls for each child in the room. So the child plus their primary caretakers, that they're very integrated with us. We're almost like one at this point, you know. So what affects one has an impact. Like if the mother's in a bad humor. My husband used to travel a lot, and the kindergarten teacher would know when Donal was away, because she'd know it in Sophie, you know, how she behaved and how she acted. It wasn't even a behavior thing, she just know it from her. So we're very integrated at that stage, and it starts to change, you know, once they're kind of from the age of 7, this separation starts to change. But the real separation happens in secondary school. In secondary school, the kids are supposed to become separate from their parents. How else are they going to be independent living adults if they are still connected to you with this energetic umbilical cord? So they will do that by acting out. They will do it by trying to push you away. They will do it by all sorts of things. Plus, they're also hormonal. So this is all really good. It's really beneficial. And this is when you start to let them go. You know, there's a natural stage. If you're breastfeeding, there's a natural stage. I'm going to be very controversial now and say somewhere between 9 months and around a year, probably around a year, when the baby is happy to wean naturally. If you take that window, then weaning is easy. If you don't take that window, and certainly for me, it was hard because like I love nursing, then you have to put effort into it, you know. So there's these natural windows that happen. So in these teenage years, there is a natural separation that is happening, which is healthy. And here's where you really get to really look at your language, at your speaking with integrity, at you taking things personally. So I'm going to talk about a teenager, but it could easily be a 3-year-old. Like if they act out, if they throw a wobbler, if we take that personally, then suddenly we're putting our shite into the equation. God love these poor I'm going to stick with teenagers just to keep it. The teenager is already having enough trouble figuring out whether they're up, down, in, out, you know, everything. So they don't need our stuff overlaid on it. So if we take it personally that they are pushing away from us, or that they don't love us, or whatever it is, whatever we're overlaying on this, we cannot be of service to them. So us getting out of the way and letting the teenager doing their development is useful, helpful. And that doesn't mean being a doormat. I'm not saying that you let them throw their wobbler and, you know, speak to you in a you know, unkind way. I'm saying that you have boundaries, that you agree what they are, that you support them speak with integrity about their needs. You know what, ma'am, sometimes I just can't be in this room. That's perfect. Then we have agreed that you can just leave the room, and I'd rather you didn't bang the door. Sometimes I need to bang, I need to get, okay, let's find a way that you can do that. Here's a door you can bang, or here's something you can throw, or here's a whatever. So this is a way that you can do that. Or you can go take the basketball and bounce it against the yoke so many times, or whatever. Or sometimes I'm in company, ma'am, and this is going to come up, and therefore I need that. So having an agreement so that they have an escape valve, that they can get what they need, that they can ask for what they need, and that you can also say what your boundaries are. It is not okay to shout at me. If you need to shout, because getting things out verbally, like say in birth, using your voice, voice and sound is really beneficial. So if they are, they need to 100%, I support you scream and shout, not to me, at me, and not using bad language. However, 100%, and I'll scream with you if you want, or put on the music really loud and scream your head off, or go to this room, whatever, like acknowledge their need and find ways that they can have their needs met without disrespecting you. Does that make sense? And therefore, it's just like when they were a toddler. When they were a toddler and they weren't in their body and they were like, and throwing wobblers on the floor, you didn't just walk away and leave them, or maybe you might if they were in your kitchen, but you kept them contained, safe, and then let them do what they needed to do. So similar for teenagers, set up your boundaries, set up and set up communication. In my opinion, the cleanest way of doing that is talk about yourself. Speak with integrity. I feel, model it, model what you're looking for them to do, model how it feels. Wow, I cannot believe I really took it personally when you did blah, because it turns out they didn't give a toss about you. They were just in their own body. So you can model for them what you're expecting them to do. It is very helpful because you have to get clear. If you're going to model it, you're going to have to get clear. Wow, I found it really difficult when whatever the situation was. For my my teenage girl, I remember, like, it was so interesting because I'd done all this work on myself. I was like in line, I was like Herbie on steroids. And then she reached whatever she reached, 15, 18, no, it wasn't 15, 13, 14, 15, I don't know, some age like this. Anyway, hormonal as hell. She knew exactly how she could set me off like she could see how that's very empowering language there, wasn't it? She could. I suddenly turned into a teenage girl myself. I couldn't contain myself. I was like, I would blow up. I'm saying to my husband, what in God's name is going on? Why am I like a complete idiot screaming at her to not do or whatever it was? Like, how is it that we were rubbing up against each other like this? And I really couldn't get to the end of, and of course I could feel guilty about it because, I know better, I know to speak with integrity, I know blah, blah, blah. So I could really beat the shite out of myself. So I beat the bejesus out of myself for how I acted with her. And I didn't know how to come the other side of it. And in the end, it suddenly I had this thought that she's like the 3-year-old, and with a 3-year-old who's all hormonal and doesn't know where their body is and is blah, 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 I used to hold her tight. So I remember exactly where I was when I thought, okay, I'm trying something new here because the old pattern is not working. And I came so far. I mean, some of us have worked together on energy bodies and we know about this. Well, I broke through, I went through the eye of the storm and went right in and gave her a big hug, held her like a bear hug, held her. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done. And initially she's, and then just melted. And it totally, completely transformed our relationship. I'm not saying that that's the answer. I'm just saying that my behavior, I did not like my behavior. I was acting like the teenager. And when her wounds and my wounds rubbed up together, we had this, and when I could act like the adult and see her as this poor hormonal, which I had in my head, it changed things because I had a choice. I now had choice and I chose a different path. She doesn't like being hugged right now, but like it really worked for a few years just to really help ground her and settle her down. And then after that, we could put boundaries in place, and we had like safety words, that, and we had place, all the different things that she needed and that I needed, but we could talk about what we needed. That was kind of a lot about teenagers, but it's not just about teenagers. It's like at whatever stage your kid is at. I would be saying to you the same kind of things. You're their parent, not their best friend. What are you looking to get from your relationship with your child? If you're looking to them for love, if you're looking to them for respect, if you're looking to them for unconditional love, then you should stop. Stop. Look for yourself. Look to that from yourself. The respect, the unconditional love, the being seen, being honored. You need to do that for yourself. You cannot expect your child to do that for you. That is a hole that only you can fill. And if you are expecting that from your child and you got it for the first number of years of their life. And so you may have developed this habit that this is where you're going for it. You're setting yourself up and you're setting them up. And this is subtle. What I'm talking about here is real subtle. So noticing, where am I getting fed? And am I expecting my children to feed me? And if you are, stop it. Much harder said than done than said. And it's even hard to even notice. It's hard to notice, and it's hard, like if we start, there's so much, but like, and then you can get into this whole load of, it's a whole conversation. I mean, there's probably a whole hour just looking at parenting, like in terms of rescuing our kids versus empowering our kids versus supporting and protecting our kids. You know, there's a whole line there. There's a whole conversation about assumptions that we make for our kids. You know, assumptions like, oh, well, I was rubbish at maths, so they'll be rubbish at maths, or, ah, well, I'm good at sports, so they'll be good at sports, or, ah, well, there's no music in our house, so there'll be no music, you know. So there's a whole load on those kind of assumptions. Never mind the assumptions about where they're going to live, who they're going to marry, if they're going to marry, are they going to have kids? Like, my God, when you start looking and seeing the amount of assumptions that we make about our kids, yeah, I'll leave that with you for the next 20 years. And so the more we can be conscious of these kind of things, the more then we have a choice. It's really about becoming conscious of them so as to have a choice. And the last thing I'm going to say about kids, and it's the exact same thing as we should be doing about with partners, with friends, with everything else, is meet them where they're at. So just like we were talking about, you know, colleagues or friends, with our kids, meet them where they're at. And here again, assumptions. We make an assumption about where the kid is at. How do you find out where your kid is at? You ask them. Now, I'm not saying you say, now, dear little 2-year-old, tell me, at what development stage are you at? Oh, now that you're 16-year-old, please tell me, what stage are you at? Instead, just mirror back the question. Why is the sky blue? That's a really interesting question. Why do you think the sky is blue? And then you get to listen. What is sex? That's a really interesting question. What do you think sex is? And then listen. I remember explaining to my sixth class child, I think, about not ever sending dick pics and what a dick pic was, because I had just done the training, you know. And he's like, oh my God, Mom, how disgusting. Oh. And then a year later, he comes back and says, that was good advice you gave me, because turns out loads of people are sending dick pics. He was in first year. I mean, anyway. However, a few years before that, he had been using the word sex a lot. Everything, sex. I think he was probably about third class, maybe fourth class. And again, sitting outside in the car is great for these conversations, sitting outside in the car, and I was, so love, you know, sex, you know, what do you know about sex, or do you want to know about sex, or what, I hadn't got the key. I didn't have the tools at this time. I didn't know what to say, just directly ask him, but I was saying, like, you know, basically I asked him, did he want to have the sex? Did he want to know exactly what sex is? And he said, no, not just yet. I said, that's grand, love. We'll come back to you in a while. He didn't need to know. He was just using the word. He was in third class. And then a few years later, we have another conversation, you know, and we would have very open conversations, which I strongly recommend, about sex, contraception, about, you know, it's kind of a dinner table topic. My poor husband wasn't so with me in the beginning. I have to admit, this isn't for everybody, but I think he can see that. I think he would tell you now it was useful, but at the time there might have been a little bit of I might have been on my own in that one. Anyway, happy enough. That was a whistle-stop tour of children from the age of conception through to leaving home. Speak
I
to me
think
of
if your
work.
children are talkers, it's easier not to make assumptions. I would have one of my sons is just not a talker. It's not in his nature. And so I think I spent a lot of his teenage years making assumptions based on how I would have felt in a situation. So I would go deep dive into, oh my God, he's not going out this weekend. He has no friends and he's feeling really lonely. And my husband would say things like, no, he's just been working all week. He's tired. But I invested huge drama into,
Yes.
because I had feelings of loneliness when I was a teenager. And so I think it's easy when you are talking about children who will talk back to you, who will articulate their feelings, but often sitting with the silence is harder. And often sitting with the silence is where, as a mother, and often even as a teacher, you jump in to fix something that may not need fixing.
Completely.
And the other thing I think is that it is a lesson you never stop learning, to not depend on your children to bring you joy. My daughter lives in London, and I was so excited about her coming home for Christmas. And I told everyone about her coming home, and she was actually going to be off, and I was going to be off, and it was lovely. And she came home, and I obviously never had sent her the memo, because she had plans made, and I sulked for the entire week before Christmas because I wasn't part of those plans. And I was so cross with her.
Yes.
And she turned around to me at one stage during that week and she said, "Are you annoyed with me?" And I went, "No, of course I'm not annoyed with you." But it took me so long to actually realize that I had built a whole
Story.
expectation for my joy.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy expectation, and also had assumed that she would know, because if she loved me at all, she'd know.
Oh yes.
All those assumptions.
Oh yes.
But so I just was amused. So I was amused when you were saying about, I just feel like my daughter is 27. You'd think I'd have learned the lesson now, but I think it's a lesson that we often have to keep learning.
Yeah.
That we are
And actually, I love
responsible
that
for
thing
our
with the
own joy.
silence, because the silence, us getting used to sitting with our silence, because it's exactly like you described. We fill in the space because our kids, especially as teenagers, don't want to speak to you. And what you're going to get is just a grunt, maybe, or not at all. So learning to speak teenage language and silence, I think, is key for that, and giving them the space, because it might be silent for a good while and then the space. Or the other trick, just in terms of tricks, driving them is perfect. Like, driving is fantastic because you're not looking at them. So drive them everywhere. I love driving my kids anywhere.
I had to drive them to Cork, Pet.
Yeah. Drive
to get
them
anything out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And with their mates or their siblings.
But I think sometimes you have to accept its personality as well, because this is
100%.
not just a teenage person. This is a person who is very comfortable not talking.
And it's not only just teenagers, like little kids. You'll hear parents talk about their little kids that won't tell them it. And also this business of going looking too much for information.
Yes.
How was your day at school? Like, they could be done. They're done talking. Or especially, and sometimes it can be very confrontational. How was your day at school? Like, especially if you're looking at younger kids, well, actually all kids, but little kids, leave them alone. They're not ready. Just watch how they play. They'll play it out with their dolls, or their toys or their cars. They'll reenact what was going on in school. You'll hear the teacher's voice coming out and their mate's voice is all coming out. 100%.
Well, apparently my one is, "Are you all right?" And my entire family feel there's such loaded judgment on the "Are you all right?" Because I'm basically saying, please tell me you're all right, because I want to be all right. If you're all right, I'm all right. So let's get this over with. So anyway, enough of my dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I love parenting. It's just so cool. It's like so cool because it's such a fantastic playground to fuck things up in. you know, and like you say, you just keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. I'm gonna just do two quick things, just a couple of other quick things, which will give us space then for next week. Then that I can fill in any more bits that you're interested in. So let me just talk very, very briefly about your family of origin. And again, this is a place you could spend an entire week. Families of origins are great because you can think you're enlightened and then you go home for Christmas. Or in Miriam's case, they come home to you for Christmas. And we get to learn so much because our family of origin is typically where we created a lot of our rule book, our constitution. They may have the similar wounds to us, similar samskaras to us. We get to rub up against each other. We get to like, wow. Also, our behavior is often less moderated. We will often behave to our loved ones in a way you would never behave to your friends. But here's the thing, right? You picked them. You picked your family of origin. If your kids picked you, you picked them. Like it kind of, you know, this is the way it is. So if hanging out with your family of origin supports you discover your wounds or your samskaras, then it's kind of cool because you can get to fix it. Did I just say the word fix? Oh my goodness. You can get to work with, to clear, to explore, to be curious about, wow, why am I in such reaction to my sister when she said blah? Why am I in such reaction to my mom when she said, I've forgotten exactly your phrase now, Miriam. Are you okay? You okay? You well? Why am I in such, you know, so all of these beautiful, beautiful opportunities, and they can come so quick because we have our guards down. Like I say, they're fundamental to us, to our setting up. And like I said, often our behavior is not moderated. Like I remember at one stage looking at how I behaved to my mother as a 30-year-old woman going, oh my God, you are acting like a 15-year-old child. Give myself a smack, you know. And often we fall back very into parent-child relationship. So like you're grown-ass adults. You know, it's cool. It's a fantastic place to see where we want to work. It is definitely next level, though. Definitely. In terms of work, again, people can sometimes say work is difficult, or they might give up on their work, or they might say their work is meaningless, or, you know, why am I bothering, or all of these kind of questions. So here it's about being your best, being the best that you can be, you know, do the best job that you can do because you want to do the best job you could do. Why are you giving away your power? Oh my God, my kids give me such grief over this. Anytime I talk about a teacher, they say, oh, you're going to say, why are you giving away your power to the teacher? I don't care, ma'am. I don't want to hear that. But why are you giving away your power to be joyful to an employer? There's a deal. You're going to do X job for X payment in X time, in whatever. Just do the bleeding job. Do it great. Do it amazingly. Why not be amazing at your job? There's no, you know, why not? Why not have fun in your job? Like, why are you giving away your power to let a group of Moni Minis ruin your day? Find new Moni Minis to hang out with, or, you know, go for a walk at lunch, or, you know, feeling empowered to find your freedom. So there's an agreement, whatever the agreement is that you're going to do that. And then around that, you haven't offered, there is no indentured slavery in Ireland, and you haven't sold your soul. So reclaim that, reclaim your joy, and then put boundaries, put tools in place. And then you're looking at speaking with integrity. So if your needs are not being met, verbalize it. They can say yes or no, and you can say yes or no. When you approach it as an adult, then there is space for compromise. And if they're not able to, and it doesn't serve you, then change jobs. But if it's been serving you for certain ways, and these ways, then you make a choice. Well, that's okay. I'm going to live with that because I'm being served by this way, and I'm going to keep my joy. even though they want me to work Thursday nights or whatever it is that they want me to do, and I don't really want to do it, but I'm willing to do it. And then once you make the decision to do it, just get over yourself. Do it joyfully. So that you are then empowered, because even if you do decide to change jobs, or you do decide to change environments, or you do decide, because there are some environments that can be really toxic, and you may want to move yourself out of that environment. 1,000,000%. I'm not saying stay in a toxic environment. I'm not saying stay in a job that doesn't support you in the way you need to be supported. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that being miserable in a job is no way to get a new job. It's no way to create a new career. It's no way to make that change. If you're a miserable whatever and you go to an interview, you're going to be miserable. And then what are you going to attract? Another miserable environment. Did you ever have a job, hate the job, change job, and end up in exactly the same job, just in a different office with different people's names? So when we take back our power, then it'll all happen naturally, automatically. If you have suddenly become joyful, there'll no longer be a match for you in a miserable place. So you will end up either something is going to happen, something. But as long as you stay miserable, that's what you're going to be attracting. So become the change you want. Be the best employee you can be, your employer, road sweeper, whatever it is. Be the best that you can be, because you deserve to be the best that you can be. Be the happiest. Why not? And then the whole thing will shift. But shifting from that place, not from a place of victimhood, not from a place of woe is me, not from a place of victimhood. And so therefore using assumptions, using all of these tools to change the environment, starting with the inside. And the same then happens, the exact same thing applies to your friends and your community. So your friends, once you are joyful, some of your friends may fall away, because you will have a pattern of behavior with them. And if that pattern no longer serves you, then one of two things are going to happen. Either your relationship is going to change, and maybe you're both going to become joyful, happy, whole adults and actually have a bit of crack. Or they're going to say, Jesus, she's a pain in the arse. She's no longer bitching and moaning with me. I'm off, and they'll find a new friend. You can't, it's not possible. Positive and negatives, you take the two magnets and you try to put them together and they just repel each other. Yeah. Or positive and positive, whatever. That's a bad example because I've just said positive and positive. But you know what I mean? If you change your vibration, then you may end up losing. Some of your friends may move on, and you may find new friends, and some of your friends may change with you. Yeah. But the thing is about having that high vibration, because I just think oh my God, sometimes I listen to my husband, I listen to my brother, I listen to people, and they talk about the people that they interact with, and I'm like, I never have that experience. People don't moan to me. I don't know why they don't moan to me, but surprisingly enough, I don't experience people being racist to me about talking about it around me. I don't experience moany minis. I don't it's the people that I get to hang out with. They're like ye. They're like, I just hang out with the coolest people in the world all the time. It's like the best job ever. And for me, it's about me changing my vibration. So only people with similar vibration want to hang out with me. The others think I'm fucking nuts, and they just go, yeah, whatever. And they go play basketball or go to the football with the kids and bitch about who didn't shout at their kids about who didn't score some goal or something. I don't know what they'd be talking about. But they just think I'm nuts and they leave me alone, which suits me, because I get to hang out with people really, really high vibration. By being and hanging out with people with high vibration, it supports me put the work in to keep my vibration high. And so we get to support each other. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's like deadly. At 3 minutes over, I'm going to go another 2 minutes over, because then we will be finished, because the final, so we're kind of working out, from ourselves, partners, kids, family of origin, work, community. When it comes to saving the world, I really believe that's my job, to save the world. If we try saving the world, and that's a really popular place for people to be in I'm going to save the world. The first person we need to save is ourselves. There's some, I've forgotten, I wrote down his name and I left it up in the house, but there's some great philosopher who talked about how if you go out to change the out to save the world without becoming, working on yourself, without cleaning up your own stuff, it's basically like going out and trying to put carpet all over the world instead of put on a pair of shoes. We want to become the change, we become the change we want to see. Then the people around us go, Japers, what was that you did? I want to do that. That's deadly. Tell me more. And they are supported, access their higher vibration. We know from COVID, 6 degrees of separation. Imagine if we let our light shine enough, the people around us let their light shine. 6 degrees of separation, we have the whole world, even Donald Trump somehow. To me, that is how we save the world. We save ourselves, and then we inspire the people around us. Good night. Go save the world.